The Nuffield workshop was a very exciting workshop held in Cambridge, England, organized by Stephen Hawking in the summer of 1982. This was shortly after the invention of new inflation by Andre Linde and by Paul Steinhardt and Andy Albrecht, new inflation being the first real working version of inflation. At that point, some of us working on inflation had become very worried that inflation would produce a universe that was completely smooth. And a completely smooth universe would stay completely smooth and would never form galaxies and structures like the universe that we live in. So where does the structure come from? After a while, it was realized that perhaps quantum theory can come to our rescue here. Within the group of people I was working with, I think it was Stephen Hawking who first noticed this idea, although looking back at the literature later, it seems Andrei Sakharov had the idea some number of years earlier. But in the context of this new inflation, it really was an idea that could be implemented. We could talk about what the quantum fluctuations do to the process of inflation. And there were a number of us at this workshop working on that. At the beginning of the workshop, I think none of us knew what the right answer was, but we all had calculations that were gearing up to try to figure out how to apply the principles of quantum mechanics to this phenomenon of inflation. The workshop was very exciting, with all of us coming up with different answers and arguing with each other, going back and forth through the night sometimes. By the end of the workshop, we all came to an agreement on what the answer was, and the answer had some good news and some bad news. The good news was that the spectrum of the fluctuations, that is, the way in which the magnitude of the fluctuations depended on the wavelength, was exactly what we expected for the universe, although we didn't really know exactly what to expect at that point. But at least it was consistent with what people thought the fluctuations must look like. They had not been seen yet. The bad news was that for the model of inflation that we were using, new inflation, these fluctuations that we calculated were much larger than what the universe might actually have. So that was a problem. But it was a problem which this calculation already pointed toward how to solve. You could invent other models of inflation which maybe looked a little more awkward, so they weren't the first ones. But one could easily invent other models of inflation where the fluctuations would have the right amplitude, the right height of the ripples. And in the end, it was a very, very exciting workshop in which I think we really did make important progress on an important problem in physics.